That's what I'm here for. I'm here to sacrifice my own ideals for the fans.
Hello and welcome to another Dead Pixel. We're a podcast about video games, anime, entertainment, life, a little bit of everything in between. I'm your host, as always, Joe, and with me, celebrating March 13th, World of Sleep Day, Nick, the gentleman who knows everything about body pillows, or dakimakuras as they're called, and more importantly, how he can get past HR to bring those said sexy body pillows to work. Nick, how you doing?
I'm doing well. I would never do that to my HR. That's factually incorrect. Also, I just sell the body pillows. I don't partake in that thing. It's kind of like the people that sell cigarettes. How like they sell them, but they don't actually smoke them. It's kind of like that. They're actually it's just you don't get high on your own supply, as the kids say these days. But yeah. So that's the whole body pillow sort of thing. There's going to be a documentary out, after the lawsuits are done. But yeah, we'll probably make money off of that too. So yeah, look out for that. It'll be on one of the streamers, I'm sure. How are you, Joe?
Doing all right. Well, now that I know, I'm going to make sure to get you a socially acceptable body pillow. By socially acceptable, I mean within the anime community. So yeah,
It's actually funny.
we
That you mentioned that because like I actually don't like pillows like in general. Like I have very few pillows in my house, and whenever I go over to someone's house and they have like a couch with like 50,000 pillows, like throw pillows and stuff, it annoys me to no end. Um, so yeah, I'm actually kind of anti-pillow in my life.
all right. Well, guess what? Things will change.
I just feel
Uh,
like I just feel like you're gonna like sprain something if you have too many pillows. You're gonna step on one while it's like on your hand and like tear part of your elbow tendon. It just
you're like,
seems
oh no, I'm falling into this mountain of
it
pillows.
just
Oh, what
seems
a
like a
terrible
death
way to go.
trap. It seems like a death trap to me. You could suffocate very easily.
All right. Well, I'm gonna find your church and I'm gonna send out like a giant 2B pillow, just labeled to you. Make sure that Amazon doesn't throw it in a box and just as is. For nature. You don't want to have extra box material. Just send them just the raw package, vacuum sealed, and let someone else at church give it to you. I think that'd be hilarious. Uh,
Okay.
and then you can just be like it's just be like, hey, it's a guy from just say Chicago, and then be like, yeah, all right, those guys are assholes. That's fine.
Well, everyone knows that, so that goes without saying. Um, yeah, I will pursue legal action if you do that.
Uh, it's it's all in good fun, so it's okay.
That's it.
Yeah, and don't need to cry over anime pillows.
I
All
mean,
right,
that'd be pretty funny to like have the like what would we do during the lawsuit with the podcast? We have to keep having it, right? So just very very terse. Maybe we could record our own sections and then put them together. And now to you, and it's like we just put everything together in post, so we don't actually have to talk to each other. I don't know.
what I
Maybe
would do though is I'd have in order to have it look like I'm talking to you, I would have your face on a body pillow standing right next to me, and that way the audience can make it look like we're having a conversation.
okay, okay.
And then I'd sell that body pillow on a new ADP website, and then we would make merch off that.
I don't
So
know if
everyone,
I don't know if that would help your case though. I mean, maybe your pillowcase, but not like your legal case. So, um,
and you yell at me for getting bad ones out there too. That's pretty
it's
terrible.
that was pretty bad. That was pretty bad. We should put up. We're going to put up a trigger warning prior to the podcast. Sorry about that, folks. Okay,
All right. Well, if you made it this far, we're really great. Thanks a lot.
we're really grateful. Yeah.
Probably have a skip button right there, like just like anime intros. But all right, let's get right into what we've been playing. you, a fan of all early access games, most very notably
I knew
vocal about early access.
I knew I was going to hear about this. Yeah, so traditionally I do not like early access games. And we're going to find
Hate and loathe are the key terms that when I associate you and early access.
yeah, that is the term that I typically use. I kind of hate early access games. I understand why certain studios feel like they need to do it to fix bugs and stuff like that and stress test. I think it does make a lot of sense for a game that is like a truly live service game. I am more dubious about that when it comes to games that are not really live service. But anyway, the game that we're talking about today is Slay the Spire 2. So that game came out to immediate critical acclaim, more or less. It is in early access. It launched in early access on Steam, and it famously has had nearly 500,000 players, concurrent players, over 400,000 concurrents at one time. I think is where it peaked, unless that's changed again. But yeah, so they were talking about how great of a deal that was. And Slay the Spire was a game I always heard was very good. So I was like, okay, I want to try to get in on the ground floor on this. So I did. So I jumped in, $25 for the early access version of the game. And it looks like there's quite a bit that's there already. It looks pretty well complete to me. There's probably a lot of things that they're going to add along the way, I'm sure. But I was able to play for about 5 hours before I hit the kind of end game, or the end of the road in terms of the story. And I was able to play through about three different characters. And yeah, it is super fun. I really had no idea what Slay the Spire was like really about, but it is a deck building roguelike game where you go through different enemies and sometimes rest spots or treasure chests, and you go up a spire and you go from like one boss to the next, and just fight them, and you get like more cards as you win, and you kind of build your deck, and then you can like do more things, and then you can build on, you can start to figure out, oh, well now like I have all these different, like I have like, so let's say you have a card that might take like use life as a currency, and it's like, well, why would you ever want that? And then you figure out, oh, it works with this card, and now I can use a little bit of my life as a currency, but it actually helps me in the long run by doing this other thing. So that's kind of the long and short of it. But yeah, it's a really good game. As far as I've played, I am really excited for the full game to come out. So if that does come out and it's more than $25, then I'll feel like I've saved some money at least, you know. But yeah, I mean, not really breaking any news here. Slay the Spire 2 is good at the very least. I just hope that it comes out this year so that it can go, you know, somewhere on the Game of the Year list. Because if it doesn't, then I don't know. I don't know where I guess we would have to keep it off, but that's a problem for a different podcast.
Yeah. So according to the AI overlords, 1.0 is looking like 2027, 2028.
Oh, wow. 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 That's way far off.
So, yep. Shooting your shot early.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Well, so yeah, I guess then it would have to be considered at that point. Then they might have a lot left to put in here than 2027 or 2028. That's a ways off, but it is good. Um, there's more characters and stuff that I could play. I just got to the kind of the part where you can tell, okay, they're done with me like progressing in the story in this game. There's also not really too much in the way of story that's actually put out there, so that might actually increase quite a bit after it actually comes out. So, but yeah, it's a good game, and I can't wait to actually play it in 2 years.
I mean, now that you've already opened the Pandora's box, you now got to start doing a lot more early access games, just so you can create your own early access game of the year category, and say best early access game of 2026.
Yeah. Um, that doesn't sound particularly great to me, but there's probably some content that you could mine out of that. I don't know. Like, I feel like I might try to buy like more early. Like, if it's an early access game and I just have no faith in it, or there's no chatter about it, then I'm probably not going to mess with it. Really, the reason why I broke my rule for this one is because it was getting so much hype, as it were. And I was like, okay, let me, like, there's obviously not nothing here. Let me go ahead and jump in so that I can give you guys, the fans, a little bit of the good news. So that's what I'm here for. I'm here to sacrifice my own ideals for the fans.
Yeah, for the fans, not even a paycheck, but just
Just
for the
for
fans.
for
Um,
love of the game.
okay, so outside of that, we've been pretty busy playing Resident Evil Requiem. We talked about it a little bit last time how I think you had just finished it last week, and I had not gotten to. I was like maybe a little under 50% at the
Mhm.
time, so I have now finished it, and we can talk a little bit more about our full thoughts on it. Um, we mentioned last time, no surprise, it's good. It's fun. It has a unique, spots to it. But I didn't know if there's anything else you wanted to fully talk about with this because I have a few things.
Yeah, I figure we can kind of talk about some of the mechanics and stuff, and then maybe toward the end of this conversation, we get more into spoilers, just so anyone listening out there can be forewarned that we'll probably go ahead and talk about spoilers at this point, or at least
Yeah, if we're
during
gonna
this
talk about
conversation.
mechanics and you think mechanics are spoilers, then guess what? Then step aside.
Here,
Or if you
just
want enemy type and you're like outside of a zombie, you're like, oh, maybe I just spoiled something for you because you're like, oh, I thought they were gonna be Las Plagas and not zombies. Okay, well, my bad.
just rip,
So
just
spoiler.
rip just rip the headphones out. Doesn't matter how much they cost, how expensive they are, or if you're driving a very expensive piece of machinery and a lot of people's lives are in your hands. Just rip those headphones right out. Okay, so yeah, so I did start a second run on classic mode. So this is a mode where you don't just get to save whenever you want. You have to get the ink ribbons to be able to save. And starting out, I did notice immediately, okay, this is actually quite a bit tougher, um, because you don't get to just do like whatever you want. And it would have been a much tougher run for me to do that on the first run. It does save you a lot of it does save you a lot of time, I would say, in to play modern. You're just like, okay, I did this thing, oh, I just one little extra thing, but I kind of am, I'm not going to get to play for very long, so I did one little thing, and I'm just going to go back and save and then turn it off or whatever. So I do appreciate modern for that. But yeah, um, mechanics and stuff. Um, I guess I didn't really get to say very much about Leon's part last time because you hadn't quite gotten there yet, I don't think. Um, but Leon's section of the game, because it really breaks down into Grace's part early on. There is some Leon stuff, but there's like Grace's part early on is the majority, and then Leon's part later on is the majority. Um, and I enjoyed Leon's part, not as much as I liked Grace's part, but I like Leon's part. It was definitely more action focused, but it did still lean on some horror elements. You do have some creepy places that you have to go, and some they make you go down like into some hatches a couple times, and it's like, okay, I know what you're like. You go into a dark room, and it's like, oh, this is a dark and scary room, and it's like, oh wait, I have to go down into that basement, don't I? And you're like, ah, dang it. Um, but what they do with his stuff is they give you a lot more weapons, and they give you more like weapon upgrades and things. So, and they also give you like a point system for how to like earn that stuff. And I thought that all that was really cool. I thought the puzzles to do with his areas were pretty good, and that it did kind of crescendo toward the end of his part, where you are getting into a lot more fights and shooting matches, and there's a lot more kind of zombies sort of pouring out that you have to take care of. But yeah, there's also some stuff with him where he's in a building that's not right side up, is what I can say, and you have to play with the environment a little bit there, and I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, overall, I thought that they did a really good job with taking a mechanic or taking a area and all the mechanics that are involved with that, and taking them to their logical conclusion without overplaying the hand. Um, Grace's early section, in the in the first floor and up of the clinic is really great. And then there's another section, kind of still with Grace, but below the clinic, and it's like, okay, it's a totally different thing, and it's a smaller area, but they definitely get all the meat off of the bone without overplaying it. And yeah, just really just masterful work, I think, done on the part of Capcom for that.
Yeah. I didn't realize that the classic mode, it just says that it just you need ink ribbons. I'm like, okay, I'm all right with that. Uh, so from what I had found after the fact was apparently uh there's less auto saving, there's less items, and the enemies are stronger or more aggressive,
Oh,
higher health pool.
oh wow.
So which explains why I had such a hard time in the beginning of that freaking game,
Okay.
especially when you don't understand how to parry with Leon. Because I died a lot. I died more than I should have in the beginning with the first chainsaw guy,
Yeah.
and I was just trying to figure out the game mechanics, and then I ended up using a Requiem round, to take out a couple of in a row. Yeah, the by the time I was done with the game though, I had for Leon, it was the final boss was cakewalk. I had enough special rounds. I had things kitted out all the way, like or certain parts of my weapons completely maxed. Um, I had a bunch of ammo, so I was able to just lay waste, and I had almost no difficulty with the final boss or the couple. There was a couple major bosses that I felt I was like, okay, now is the chance for me to really let loose and not worry about my ammo. So it worked out pretty well. Though I did ended up, I died probably more in this than I have in the average Resident Evil game, mostly because of just poor my poor accuracy slash not expecting what's going to happen, and then just without having a relatively recent save, I'd end up being thrown back a bit further. I think my game time was just under 16 hours uh, on first run through, casual standard. I followed a collection guide. So, because I was just like, there's a few things I'm like, I don't want to. After hearing about you went through the entire thing and missed a few things here and there in per section, I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna follow a guide. That way, I can just go ahead and my next playthrough just kind of go ham and take it easy. So I've got all the trophies except for the insanity difficulty, playing under 4 hours, minimalist, which is I think I think that's like collecting no blood, and then there was one for never touch the stuff, which is like don't use any healing items or any injectors for Grace, or no healing items for Leon. So once I get those done, I will have the platinum. So I generally and I believe you can do the 4-hour run under uh, casual. And a lot of these the bonuses will carry over, so I'll probably unlock her knife so that for the casual run, and I'm probably gonna do follow a guide to just do the to min max,
Okay.
get the casual, get the or do a casual 4 hours with the ellipse or elpis ending, yeah. So and then no collecting any blood, and no doing any healing items on casual. And then once that's done, I can then power fantasy my way through insanity difficulty. So
Okay. Okay. Nice. Yeah. So, is there a different knife that you're talking about? Because I've got like the infinite shiv, and that's actually been really useful in the classic run. Um.
yeah, so there is in it I forget there's a I forgot what the name of the knife is for Grace. Um
Okay.
it's a oh, what is it now? It's a Japanese short blade, isn't it? Um
Like a
I
go
can't
katana or something.
Kuntachi or something, I think they call it or something.
Okay.
I'm mispronouncing it. I know I am, but
Hmm.
anyways, yeah, so there is a special, but that's the infinite blade that you buy from the item box for
Nice.
Grace.
Okay.
Um and then eventually get enough credits to go ahead and what I did was I think I was missing for my blood collection achievement. There was a I was like 4,000 something out of like 4,200 out of like 5,000 you needed.
Okay.
And that gives you quite a bit of points to buy your special perks. Uh, Turns out you can save scum that. So if you happen to have an old save that has some blood packs, you can then consume the blood packs and then reload the save. And then that just accumulates. So I had a old save towards the later part of the Grace's run through uh, the care facility.
Hmm.
I had 2 packs of 50 on me. So then in the storage bank, box, walked in, took them out, consumed them, reloaded, did that like 7, 8 more times, and then that popped for me, which gave me an extra bit of points to use for my next run. But yeah, I'm I'm curious about the speed run. About having it because it's you have to do it in 4 hours. There's been a lot of times now that are sub 2, which I find that pretty crazy,
Hmm.
and I probably like, the idea of auto-saving or having things, being able to save more frequently is really nice because I know in the prior games, at least if you tried combining things, like if you tried getting the insanity difficulty on RE2 remake, I think you're only allowed to have, like, 4 saves in the entire playthrough. So
Okay. Oh, interesting. Yeah, because like when you do this run, you'll be able to save scum. It's not like your total time, it's like the game clock running. So you'll be able to save scum and go back and then continue on that run if you mess up something. So you can get an area probably pretty close to perfect. Like like one shot, like one shot, grab the
so
thing,
how
go,
it
go,
works
go.
traditionally, how it would work is, if you did die, like, say, if you made it to a boss and you died, what you do is you don't continue, you reload your previous save, and that'll reset the clock to where you had saved it. But if you continue, it's then gonna reload your save, but also continue the clock.
Okay.
Also, if you ever have to take a break, traditionally, you always hit the start button. You never sit at the, item inventory menu or the map menu. Always make sure to hit start, and that pauses the time you need. Uh, yeah, it's the kotetsu. The kotetsu is the name of the Grace's blade that you
Okay.
can get.
I think I do have that. I think I do have that. And yeah, it's ultra useful. It is like, you can sneak up behind a zombie, and by the time they turn around, they're pretty much dead. So you can do that, and that's on classic. So the zombie should be a little bit harder. Um, but yeah, so that one will help you out a lot.
Yeah, it was funny because when I finally got over to Leon in the care facility, that he had only one blister head to worry about because I had cleared so much with Grace. I had cleared the main thoroughfares
Hmm.
because you can kind of map out where Leon's going to be based off of the cabinets that you can break open.
Mhm.
Um, and so I just made sure to clear out certain main areas with the hemolytic ejector. And uh, outside of that, when you met the helicopter pilot, I was like, I I thought that was going to last a lot longer than it did.
Mm.
So, he's like he tells Grace to get up in the front seat, and I'm like, "Okay, great," because obviously then I'm expecting a shooting sequence, like, her to and then she's like, "No, no, I'm just gonna sit there and watch as zombies bust through this glass and just murder our pilot." I'm like, "You have a gun. You're in the front seat. What are you doing?" And she's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, no, he's struggling. He's getting his face mauled off. I'm now gonna try to grab the flight stick now." I'm like, "You could've helped a little bit more." I mean, it's, how do you say it? She is an FBI agent. She has been trained. That means she went to Quantico, right? She knows she has some basic physical competency, some actual firearms competency. She acts like she is a, like, freshman in high school. Everything she comes across, so, like, if you told me she was just a high school student or something like that, or like a freshman in college or something, like, okay, she knows nothing about the world and she barely knows how to do anything. This makes sense. Her attitude is perfectly fine. No, she's a grown ass adult who went through college and joined the FBI. She should have a little bit more there.
Yeah, that's one thing about the story that doesn't quite make sense. Maybe is that she's a little bit more timid than you would expect an FBI agent to actually be. But I don't know too many FBI agents, but um, yeah, that's one thing where I'm like, I don't know if she really needs to be quite that fearful. But as a character, I really do like her a lot. I do hope that they use her again soon. It probably won't be in RE10, but to me, she's welcome back anytime because I thought I thought she was a pretty good character overall, especially like sort of her story in general with like Emily and stuff like involved. I did have some head scratching kind of moments with like the story there. I don't know about you, Joe. So this is I'm gonna probably getting into we're probably gonna get into spoilers proper here now. But I don't know about you, Joe. But I remember what I looked like as a child. So if I went into a room and I saw myself sitting as a child sitting on a bed, I'd be like, wait, that's me as a child. And I feel like Grace doesn't realize that. So I was a little bit like, that seems a little weird. Cause I mean, they're clones, right? Or did I miss something?
Yeah, they're supposed to be clones of her, I believe. That's what I've been led to believe. Like they kind of explain it. So in one of the flashbacks you play when you're playing through the orphanage, I thought you were playing as her as a kid
Yeah.
until you get to the very end and you're watching the video scene and you're like, oh, no, no, she was handed off as an infant. So yeah, she has never really set foot in that orphanage. I mean, that makes more sense. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, the other thing is like that, she doesn't piece a lot of things together. She seems to be kept in the dark about almost everything. Um, she never once questioned the folder that was, behind the painting. Like growing up, like from her mother's passing to her current day in the FBI, she never once went back and be like, "Hey, I wonder what she put back there." She just trying to trauma dump, lock that in the vault, and there's never until she was out there, and then she recalled it. I
Yeah,
guess.
that was one thing I remember too from early on is like you're never gonna go look back there after the place. Maybe she thought it went up in flames, or she just couldn't get back in. I mean, you could write something if you really wanted to, but it is a little bit like, you never wondered.
Well, that the other thing is that means that place was in a city, was left as a burnt husk of a building for years,
for
absolute
like
years.
5 or 10 years, which is not. I mean, that's crazy, but like if it's not burned too badly, then it is possible for stuff to get tied up in court and legal stuff. Or maybe you could say Umbrella Corp would not allow, tied it up somehow. But yeah, it's a little weird.
Yeah, but, it is, and then she also looks at the hard disk, like the floppy disk, and she's like, "What is this?" Like, and she pops out the new one, and she's like, Where have I seen this before?" I'm like that, like that's like, oh, you young child,
Uh,
sweet summer child, then she's like, let me just go ahead and watch this new videos. I'm like, man, you're on borrowed time right now. You need to hurry up. You can't just be scrubbing through videos
yeah. I
all you
did.
want now.
I did have a question for you. Did you make the correct choice at the end, the first try?
Oh, you mean for the free what was it, Elpis or whatever?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So that I did choose to free Elpis. And then what I did is I quickly, while the credits were rolling, I pulled up on YouTube what happens if you didn't, and so I was watching that while all the text was going by. That helped. Uh, I don't really like to skip through credits. The first time I play a game, I just want to give it in case if anything pops up, and also just kind of give due respect. But at the same time, I disrespected it to watch the other ending.
Mhm. Your yeah, your loyalties only go so far, I guess. So I picked. This is hardcore spoilers for the game, but I picked to destroy Elpis because I was like, and I think that I'm glad that I did that because that way I could get the brief ending out of the way and then go and do like the real ending and be quote done with the game if I wanted to be. Um, but I picked it because I was like, okay, you know, like Leon is over here saying we got to destroy this stuff. It's been the whole goal of the game to get here and to like destroy this stuff. Your mom is not really your mom. You just found that out that that's not true. So her voice being like, we need to save this stuff." I was like, "Well, she doesn't count anymore." And also that crazy old man is the one that like wanted to create this stuff and Elpis it means hope or and I was like I'm going to go with kind of Leon and the quote point of the game. So I thought that's why. But I did struggle with it for a while. I went back and forth and thought of everything in my mind. But I was just wondering why you chose to free Elpis just straight away.
It seemed like too much of a red herring. Um,
Okay.
so it was just like, uh, so it was Oswald Spencer was the old man in the wheelchair. So I know you don't have a long lore with the video games.
Yes.
So he's
I
he's
am a sweet
he
summer child in that respect.
Spencer Mansion was the location of the first Resident Evil,
Right.
and the concept. I'm probably gonna get this wrong now because there's probably like some other lore that I'm missing, and so I'm gonna be corrected on that. But more or less, the uh, Cliff Notes was he was trying to be immortal, more or less. He was trying to not die, and so he was trying to, and he um through knowledge and through I think through I don't think it was Oswald Spencer. I think it was someone else who was the one in contact with like Lady Demetrius in our Resident Evil Village, and then helped create like the Umbrella Corporation, as it were. But there was other, the Lost Plagas and everything. So there was, and the fungus. So there was things that made people reanimate or help keep eternal. And so he kind of created the T virus, and I think it was the G virus originally. Um,
Okay.
I think it was the GR. Anyways, so he created that in hopes to create an eternal body. And of course, things will go wrong. Corporations are corrupt, so on and so forth. So in this case, it paints him uh, as trying to atone, the Requiem, and I'm like, "Okay."
Okay.
I actually thought the password was gonna be Requiem. I'm like, "Oh, this is," the fact that the gun's Requiem, I'm like, "God, this is so dumb." So, and then she put in Hope, and I'm like, "That's even dumber. You should have just put Grace, your name." That would have been extremely dumb. But yeah, so, um, because yeah, so I would have chose wrong, and I love how you could just put anything else that is not the right answer and the thing would explode. So she puts destruction. And I was like, she could have just been poop and like just like and then it would have just all killed everything. It didn't matter. Uh but yes, it was so I chose to release it. Um because I felt that that was going to be uh like I felt that they were trying to lead you to destroy it, and I'm like that just seemed a little too obvious.
Okay.
Um there was, and there was some of the flashback stuff talking about, and I'm like, no, her name's Grace. It's called Requiem. There's probably some sort of cure. And but
You're going
what
with
did
the
or
hope theme. That's smart. Okay, yeah.
what irked me though was like after it pops and she's all in her mind, she's already like, this is supposed to be for the good of it. Um, she holds on to that vial for a very long time before injecting Leon with it. I'm like, but she gets knocked to the side and she's stumbling around when the other guy injects himself, and then all of a sudden, what's his face? Helmet guy comes in, and then she's still she waits forever to stab Leon. I'm like, that's the first thing you do is stab the one who's saving you. Poop. The other thing is she has in a world with healing herbs. This has always been the problem. This is a Phoenix Down issue. Um, when was it Emily? When she suffers from gut wound, I'm like, just slap some herbs on that. I have a bunch in my inventory right now. Like just it used to be healing spray, but now and everyone knows how to use these herbs. Like even though you find the herb book in the ruins of Raccoon's, police department, and it's just like you're not using any of the healing items available to you. You're just gonna let this girl like, oh, I know you're suffering from a gut wound, child. I carried you a long way with this gut wound. You just lie here. I'm gonna go fight this and try to get, and I'll be right back. I'm like, maybe sprinkle a little healing powder on her, something. Uh, Bandage the wound. How about that? How about just bandaging the wound? You are an FBI agent. You know at least basic first aid.
Okay.
Okay.
Like, what do you think about this? Like, what if they were like, so you have like 15 different, like you have like 8 different like injectors. You have eight different med injectors on you in the actual game. But then when this cutscene rolls, then she says, I don't have enough injectors to save her. I'm out of injectors or whatever. If they just addressed it and just like put that in there, like would that be any better to you, or do they literally have to like force you to lose all of your med equipment and then say, oh no, she's dying, and then I mean, that would be the best, right?
Well, yeah, but at the same time, even if she said that, I'm like, great, okay, you can still freaking patch her up. You have cloth. She has a dress. You have a knife on hand. If you didn't have a knife, you have teeth. You can rip a piece of fabric or like at least bunch of some fabric up to just help stop the bleeding. She's like, no, no, just.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's a
So you did see what happened. I think there is an end credit scene, right? That does happen.
yeah.
Okay. So tell me,
Uh,
what did you see?
There's a post-credit scene. It irked me that he's like, "We can save." I didn't shoot her in the vitals. I'm like, and you can save. I'm like, what? That's dumb. No, that's just dumb. But apparently she's so healed that now she can see because she's being taught how to read. Um, so they completely reversed everything. Um, and then you see a different force come in, take out the BSAA agents, and they talk about having to extract what they came for before the wolves come. And so the wolves is harkening back to Chris Redfield's team from uh RE7 slash village. So there's tie over or crossover with that. Because at first they just said I think Commander Redfield. Or no, and I'm like, okay, so I'm like, it could be Claire. 9 out of 10 says it's going to be a Chris. Uh, but the other thing is they're kind of people have been clamoring, slash, there's been rumors on the wind that Code Veronica will be coming soon as a remake because Code Veronica it was not easily available. It was a Dreamcast game, I believe, arcade game as well.
Oh yeah, okay.
So that's what happens with her post RE2 is Code Veronica, and it hasn't really been that accessible elsewhere. There's a few people that have gone missing in the franchise for a long time. Sherry being one of them. So Sherry is the little girl who survived, who is with Claire. And her side, if you choose Claire's story in RE2, you meet Sherry. And so now Sherry and Leon are together, are partnered, uh, rumored or like speculated to be a couple in this because
Okay.
they both have rings He has a wedding ring, or he has a ring on his ring finger, and then when she takes off her glove at one point, she has it on her pinky finger. So uh, fans are thinking that that's the people that they ended up hooking up together, which I'm not sure what the age gap of that one
But
is. I
it's
mean,
significant.
yeah.
It might
So
be significant. Okay, yeah, that I mean that's something that can happen. I mean, it kind of makes sense that they would go back to Chris and Claire for RE10 because it's like, okay, we're back to where it's the full 10, and we can go kind of go back to the original. I wonder if they would go back to the mansion somehow. I don't know. It's probably too early to speculate. It's going to be like 4 years, probably 4 or 5 years before it comes out, I would think. But it's interesting because I was like, oh, okay, so the Redfields are coming back. That might be kind of interesting.
well, the next big one that everyone's been talking about is actually them remaking one again.
Mhm. Oh, okay,
Uh, yeah, so remaking one, but in the new remake series, opposed to everything being a iterative version of the GameCube remake.
okay,
Uh, and I can see it being done, especially since they've done the blistered heads. The blister heads are very much a throwback to the GameCube RE1 remake,
okay.
because the original game and the director's cut did not have the Crimson Heads. It wasn't until the GameCube remake that you had to burn the bodies. You had limited fuel, and that's when the game. I feel like that's when the game really changed as it was, because uh, it became about skirting the zombies. Trying to get them in a hallway, especially with those camera angles. You want them. You want to try to lean them to the left, and then you juke around to the right. That kind of thing. That way, in the latter half of the game, you'd only burn one or two zombies. Speedrunners, they have a formula down, because like this is the path you have to travel multiple times, so you need to clear it for good. Um, I hated that, because when I played Resident Evil uh, as a kid, I played the director's cut. I cleaned the house. I went every zombie, I murdered them all. And then having it nice and safe and just secure, like that was it. And later on, things happen, and like you get some more enemies. But it's like I did not have to worry about it. So when they threw the Crimson Heads at me, I'm like, this isn't my fun. I wanted to do it. Like I felt like they changed the core dynamics. Kind of like Metal Gear Solid over time. Like Metal Gear Solid could be played violent or passive, like sneaky. And I'm like, I always played pretty violent. And then as the games went on, they're like, no, 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 we're rewarding you for being sneaky. We want you to do no combat at all if possible. And I'm like, this is not what I wanted from it. While Splinter Cell went, no, 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 we went from stealth to nothing but combat.
Well,
By the time that
I mean,
ended.
that sort of speaks to like the genius of the way that they did this game is that they were like, well, we don't want to force you to do one way to play one way or the other, you know, um, per se. We're just gonna make it so that like when you truly have a choice, Um, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna divide the game into two very obviously like different sections where you literally have to play quote stealthy as Grace, and you literally have to play like actiony or go loud or whatever as Leon. And that was a really risky move, to be honest, but I mean it worked really well. I thought like that's like I was definitely like I do think that Grace's parts are better. I do think that some of Leon's stuff I was like, okay, I I think it might have been a little bit the environment that you're in with Leon's main section where I was kind of like, yeah, this is all right. This is pretty good, but it's a little bit drab, once you kind of get past the post-apocalyptic kind of horror of it. It was a little bit drab in places and I was like, okay, I'm going to do this and I'm ready to be done, but I'm glad that wasn't particularly like too long and then you kind of got one. I think they know that Grace's parts were kind of the best, and so they decided to stick you with getting like her like one more time to go through the lab area. I thought that was a good move by them. But yeah, so um, yeah, just very good overall the way that they decided to do that.
So what they did is they pretty much, for the fans of uh the more recent games, being 7 and Village, those are first person and more akin to 7. They realized what made that horror so effective. Um, and you can see that they took what they learned from that, put that with Grace's section, but also fundamentally what made Leon Legend was RE4, and that's when they turned it to the from the campy simple horror game, to the action horror, I guess, just more action than
Emphasis
anything.
on action, yeah.
Yeah, and it was funny because as I'm playing as Leon, I realized these cutscenes really suck for some of these action scenes because my brain was actually waiting for QTEs,
Oh,
but
funny.
there was because the old games had QuickTime events, and I'm like, just watching it kind of is like, I'm like, I actually wanted the QuickTime event. I'm like, that's there's something wrong with me,
There is
but
something. Yeah, you're sick, dude.
well, it was the formula of, the RE4 had the QuickTime events, in a lot of places, and then but then also, like, the motorcycle scene. The motorcycle scene is kinda ripped from one of the, Resident Evil, CG movies,
Mm,
uh, so and then at one point, he just blindly go climbs a building without knowing where that'll end with him. He just climbs this absurdly tall building, driving on the windows, which, like, I found it funny because I think it would be like it's more like how it should have ended, and him driving up the window, the tire going forward, him busting off and flying overhead. No, and he makes a joke at the end about not having a helmet. Or the bad guy not wearing a helmet. He's not wearing one either. So he should just smushed him in like the end. You're dead right there. But then he drives off the edge of the building, and he's just flying through the sky, and it just happens to be the other half of the building just perfectly late, ready for him to land. Um, his reaction scenes were so ridiculous. And like when he grabs Grace at the very end, he's like, "I'm just gonna shoot this random piece of equipment because I'm fighting a guy who, how was that? Uh, who's the bad guy? Who's the other bad guy? Um,
the doctor.
no, Zeno.
Oh
Zeno.
yeah, okay.
Um, yeah, Zeno, the Wesker substitute that I feel like came out of nowhere.
Yeah,
Um,
I didn't know if he was from some other part of the.
I didn't recognize him from anything else, and I thought he was just a very dumb, schlocky, you know, it's just, I think he's supposed to be like a Oswald Spencer clone,
Okay.
essentially is what it is. And so that's my guess, anyways. And he has of all the things. So Wesker, the protagonist or the antagonist. I'm sorry, the antagonist for the more or less the entire series, behind the scenes, who you know gets Chris punches a boulder to help fight him in a volcano at the end of 5. Um, so he hasn't been back since, but he wore, the quote unquote cool black wraparound shades. You can actually find a charm of his sunglasses in the STARS office, in the police station. And so so Zeno, instead of having cool shades, he has the grandpa, flip up shades. Uh, and I'm like, why? Specifically wears shades to cover his eyes. He never once takes off those shades he wears them all the time inside, and he has this little dorky flip up. I'm like, it just seems really an odd aesthetic. Um, yeah, it's just when they go camp, they kind of go camp real bad, and they miss the spot. I found Victor to be a really weird antagonist as well.
Okay. Yeah.
I expected him to come back earlier on, instead of like where he did, because obviously he survived after the bike scene.
Yeah.
Um, and I expected him to have a little bit more oomph to the end, and it really wasn't much. So I thought that was like
Yeah.
it kind of didn't stick the landing.
The final boss fight was very easy overall. Which I mean, where they put it, which was behind. I guess they could have like given you like an autosave or whatever, and just had you like re up or something like that. They could have done something around it, but it was pretty simple. It was not too much to kind of um, it just wasn't very hard. So you kind of walk through it, and then it's sort of over, which I'm okay with. I didn't really want to have a whole long drawn out hard boss fight or something like that. I was kind of good with like once the horror is sort of done, I'm kind of and the action has sort of been played out. I'm like, okay, I'm ready to be done with this game. If you can't scare me anymore, or you can't do anything that's along those lines, I'm good to just have a nice little easy boss fight and be done. But yeah, they probably could have done a little bit more to kind of clean that up. I was wondering what is your X out of 10 grade for this?
That's a good question. For me, I don't know. I think it kind of falls in a weird spot. Um, I haven't finished, I haven't done the Insanity playthrough yet. I think it's a really solid 8. Um,
Okay.
I can be easily convinced to a 9. It's just but it's somewhere between an 8 and 9. I actually haven't really, because I just finished it before we recorded. So I haven't had a lot of time to
Yeah,
digest
yeah. I
it.
guess we should have mentioned that. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, no, it's okay. It's just once again, having just finished it, I know that at the end of the game, you get Grace's files, so you can see her report, and I'm kinda curious to see if they fill in any more information, any gaps in there. But as a whole, it is I'm not sure if it's my favorite RE remake or, like, most recent game because I did like, Village quite a bit. Um, I never finished uh, I never finished 7, mostly because at the time didn't have, the PlayStation VR, and then when I did get it and stuff, it's just, I didn't have enough long enough time in my life to sit down and commit to it, so I just never got around to finishing that game. Uh, so that is a much more scary game, especially in VR, and while Village was way more action oriented. So
Okay.
yeah, I think that I mean, they have the horror elements like Lady Demetrius in the first spot or like the dollhouse segments, but then you have other spots where it's just, more straight up action, especially in the wide open spaces. I kinda liked having I know you said it was drab for Leon's, Raccoon City Central parts and stuff like that being out in the open, but I kinda actually like the refreshingness of being out in the daylight instead of
No,
having always
yeah,
being night.
yeah. Like I didn't hate it. It's just it's sort of it's like as I got there, I was like, this is cool, and I kind of walk around. It was just toward the end where I was like, I'm kind of like by the time you kind of do that final homeward run, and you're fighting all the zombies in that building, and you're trying to get back down essentially is when I was like, all right, I wasn't like really impatient with it. I was like, I'm kind of ready to be done with this. But yeah, like the being out in the daylight was a bit refreshing because it is pretty tough. Like Grace's in ending section in the middle, where you're down below the care center. That is like that's like um I don't know. That's like pretty maximum like horror zone essentially. You're literally underground, like there's no way out, there's no light, there's like all this stuff. So it was actually pretty nice to be, Leon in the day. It was just I thought they did a really good job of ending it when it was appropriate to me.
Yeah, I think so as well. I'm just trying to think about this. When it comes to uh, Leon segments, he is way more action oriented, but because I was playing it on, I guess, what would be normally like a hardcore difficulty, because it was like the highest that was currently available. Uh, I had to play it a lot differently. I do like the fact that he was able to stealth kill, and then I was learning to, and it took me far too long to get used to using his parry system. Once I got that locked in, it made the action way more fluid,
Okay.
and it really helped with, like, for example, later on with the liquors and stuff like that. Um, Being able to constantly parry quite often, and by the time I made it to the liquors, my hatchet was already like maxed. Um, and then I switched over to Hunk's hatchet, which I forget what it's called now. It has a special name to it.
Yeah.
Um, and that one gives you a bigger parry window, which is really helps out a lot because I always felt like part of my problem with the parry is I waited. I think I waited too long often enough, so I would always get like I'm like I thought I hit it and I wouldn't, or I ended up hitting just too early. So yeah, the game is really well balanced. I think they did a really decent job with this time around. It's a little weird that you get currency for the kill points, but you had to have something for Leon. During classic mode, standard classic, Leon doesn't need save. He just saves whenever he's by a box, so he's by the computer because he's not using a typewriter. So the save difficulty portion was only for Grace,
Oh, okay,
and
interesting.
I lucked out with Grace when I was carrying. Yeah, I guess my problem with my problems with the only story wise is Grace is too dumb and Leon's action is too like
Over the top.
flamboyant. Like it goes too crazy. It's just like absurd. But like Grace was like, I need this girl to like we need a MacGuffin to get the girl out of the room. And like she's like, there's only 3 buttons, the moon, sun, and star. There's only so many patterns you have to do, and she's like, "I need this girl who can read Braille, and I need to carry her all the way over here just so she can do this puzzle." I'm like, "No, I'm pretty sure I can blindly figure this out," you know? No pun intended, I guess, but, like, it was just she can, just randomly hit the sentence a certain sequence, and you're bound to find it within, I don't know, a dozen tries or something like that, and
Hmm.
yeah, so that was like, for someone who's supposed to be capable enough to join the FBI, she seemed very incapable. That's why I felt that if you told me she was a high school student, I'm like, that makes way more sense.
Yeah.
Her attitude, her mindset, her everything else. If she was just a little younger, I can make everything work in my brain. Like Ashley, from Resident Evil 4, everyone hated her for being this giant escort mission. But for the time, she was quite amazing because she could actually duck and you tell her to go hide in a box and she would, so
Mhm.
she was more capable than any companion you had at that point in gaming, that for an escort mission. But she was a college student kidnapped. So that at least kind of warranted some of that. You're like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
Just
She's not
supposed to be totally incapable, whereas Grace is literally an FBI agent, even if she's just like a office.
A paper pusher. Yeah, it's like it doesn't
Yeah,
matter. She at least knows she's gone through the basics of training,
yeah.
So,
So they did kind of drop the ball there on the story. To me, I feel like 8 is a little low. I think this is an easy 9. I think that 9.5 would kind of depend on your taste. I don't think that I'm really ready to go there, but I could definitely see like an 8.5 depending on just how much you are not impressed by the way that the story, or like works out or whatever, or other little nitpicks, but yeah, I think upwards of that. I just feel like there's plenty of other games that I've given eights to that are not that are not as good as this, and I don't really know what all I would really fix besides maybe some of those things in the story to make it literally like 2 points better. I think it's long enough. I think it has good like replay value, which I don't really care for all that much. I don't really care too much about that. Um, but the way that it runs is good, and the puzzles are great, and just the gameplay in general is really great. So that's sort of where I kind of landed on it. But yeah, I think it's definitely going to be around there for game of the year discussion.
oh yeah, without a doubt. Replay value is really important for Resident Evil games for me because ever since the beginning, Resident Evil has had a lot of unlocks, and that's one of the things you have seen kind of disappear during the age of DLC.
Oh yeah.
Because the original Resident Evil had a plethora of outfits you can play, you get and then because you had 2 different characters you can pick from, you got slightly different story takes, you had different weapons you'd get as different characters, you'd meet different people, so it really made you play each side, like, probably 2 times each minimum. You had by unlocking other weapons too, you'd unlock a minigun or unlock the rocket launcher, that always made things, the power fantasy and making things so much more simple. Uh, so in this case, I do like a lot of the throwbacks to the previous games. RE2, uh, when you're running away from the tyrant, you're running away from the tyrant in the police station. As you end up coming going up the stairs on the second floor, you round a corner. There's a collapsed stairwell. At the top of the stairwell, there's a little perch landing, and you can see a red, platform, and that is in the RE2 remake. It's a Mr. Raccoon statue,
Mhm.
that is it's just the base because the statue is already gone. Um, so I found that to be funny and a good callback. They do a number of old things like, Wesker, the library book, when you go to find the code to his, briefcase, you open up the library book, and then ends up having Rebecca Chambers, who's the heroine of the Resident Evil Zero. She's Chris's path, the side character in RE1, um, and that's it. She's been away from the franchise ever since.
Mhm.
But in RE2, the original game, you had to click on Wesker's desk 50 times, um, and then it would drop this little Easter egg photo, and it was Rebecca Chambers in that basketball outfit. Uh, and it was just yeah. So it was just like, "Oh, that's weird and kind of funny and also possibly creepy," but, it's just like it was an Easter egg, and it was, like, really silly and stupid. I think uh, they kept it in an RE2 remake, but they relocated the photo for this game because now it's in the library book. So they had, of course, Hunk. Hunk was the RE2 unlockable character after you beat the game. You can then play as one of the Umbrella Forces guys who got stuck and you had to escape. So you're playing through, and he had a different weapon set. He had the minigun or like the MP5.
Mhm.
And then they also changed up his gameplay a little bit for the RE2 remake, where it's just him trying to escape under so much time. There's a trophy to it and everything, but you're trying to evacuate before the whole town, gets detonated or whatever. Or maybe that's just three. Anyways, Tofu. They have Tofu in RE2, the police station. So I don't know if you saw him, but if you ever were walking around and you heard this like bloom 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 noise, like a slime or something,
Mhm.
um, it was I only saw him. He only appeared twice for me, and then I shot him. Uh, but he's literally this, the block of tofu with the umbrella, or not umbrella, but stars beret, and he's peeking, leaning over the corner, just staring at you. And then I shot him with my submachine gun, and he kind of like breaks off a little bit and he jiggles a little bit, and that's kind of how he showed damage in the original RE2 was as he got damaged, chunks of the tofu block would fall off. The fact that they had quirky and stupid, fun alternative, mechanics like that's the kind of stuff you'd remember hearing at the schoolroom playground, being like, "Hey, if you beat the game in such a way, you get to place a block of tofu." Like, that's lie. You're lying. No, no, here's a photo. Like, that's not real, but it turned out to be real. So, like, they did a lot of really neat things. I mean, even just how was it? There's a skeleton in the police station with missing its lower jaw, and that's in the original, RE2 as well. So it's just, it made really good references, really good throwbacks. Even uh, Grace's mom. Grace's mom is actually a character from Outbreak, the online, like PlayStation 2 online game,
Oh,
where you
wow.
get to play. Yeah, you play as 4 survivors. And it was early. I think you might have been able to do voice commands, but a lot of it was like chat text bubbles,
Mm.
and everyone has a special skill, and you're trying to. It's just like survive wave based things. Uh, I actually rebought Outbreak and Outbreak 2 with a buddy of mine. We're like, you remember playing this? Yeah, we went and bought it, and then we found out like it was within a week or 2, they had just shut down the servers, and we're like, "Well, that was a waste of money, but now we have it for a collection." But yeah, it's using the old PlayStation 2, like, network. My buddy had the network adapter, and I had the Slim, so it already had the Ethernet built in. Yeah, very janky at the time, but hey, it worked. It was really cool. Um, yeah, they pulled, and that's where the trophy like mother like daughter comes in,
Mhm.
where Grace unlocks a lock. because a lot of people, would automatically think it was for Jill Valentine, the master of unlocking. But actually, the mother from in Outbreak, her skill set was to unlock, to pick locks. So that would be a skill set that she did teach her daughter. So she may be an FBI agent who has very little skills on everything else, but she knows how to pick locks. So there's that. But yeah, anyways, you know, the more I talk to you about it, and now I've had a little more time to think. I'm like, yeah, it's an easy 9. Um, I don't know if I'd really go too much higher, but at the same time, there's enough little lore tidbits and like nuggets. And I'm like I said, if I played a little more, we'll see how much if I just stays or if I get more out of it by playing it, more often. Um,
Yeah, I think
yeah,
there just wasn't really very much that just really that I felt like, okay, this could be better. There's almost never a point in the game. I don't have a lot of experience with RE games, but there was never a point in the game where I was like, well, this could obviously be better. There was one section in the lab where I did get a bit annoyed, but I think that I just wasn't really as locked in as I probably should have been, and I ended up being able to get past that part without too much trouble. But yeah, overall, I just thought it was really good.
yeah, the having the acid vials and the flyer vials, I ended up taking out all the. It took me a few tries, but that room full of liquors, the small room, I ended up only using one barrel explosive, container, and
Mm.
then when it became a room full of zombies, I had the other explosive container, so I was able to use that to take out almost the entire other group, which really helped out. And since I was so late in the game, I knew things were coming to a head, so I started becoming more uh, frivolous with my ammo.
Mhm.
I'm like, yeah, you know what? It's fine. I'm good. But yeah, the now the question is what the DLC, because they're supposed to have DLC planned, and that may I'm not really sure. I haven't really played a lot of their other DLC because I know they had some some pretty interesting DLC for Resident Evil Village and supposed to be for 7 as well.
Mhm.
Resident Evil 4 traditionally had the Ada Wong Separate Ways storyline, which was fun. It's like meanwhile, during Leon's adventure, here's what Ada was doing. So that was kind of cool. Uh, but I'm trying to remember if I don't think there's any other real DLC, and I haven't played any of the real DLC from 7 and 8. Or Village, so I really just don't know. I'm hoping it's good. But you seem to really get a kick out of because you never did finish Village.
No.
But for you to finish this, shows that at least you liked it that much more. It helps that it breaks up the horror segments with Leon's action bit. 'Cause I had another buddy who just couldn't make it very far in Village, and he was playing it flat screen, no, not in VR. So yeah, I think Village did freak a lot of people out, or just became it was just not what they were expecting, a little too difficult, um, in certain segments, and uh, it's all about breaking the game and knowing how to break it and how what the limits are. It's
Yeah,
kinda like Hitman.
yeah, it does. There's probably a lot of things that after having played a lot of Resident Evil games, you kind of know what the MO is, what they're trying to do because I've played several of them to varying degrees, and like as different as this game is, it does have a lineage back to. I remember playing a significant amount of Resident Evil 2, the PS Vita version, um, and uh, and like playing a lot of that, and then playing this game and being like, okay, yeah, it's still the same idea. It's just more 3D and you're first person and you're like doing all these things, but the same basic stuff is still there, and a lot of the kind of the jokes and tropes of Resident Evil is still there. So yeah, once I play now that I played this one, when Resident Evil 10 does come out or the DLC or whatever they're planning to do next, and if I play that, then I imagine I'll be able to do it a bit quicker and probably have a bit better grasp of stuff because early on I was pretty timid about stuff. I was pretty scared about things, but after I did get down into lower part of the care facility, even though it was scarier, I was like a little more confident about how things were gonna go. Okay, like I know they're not gonna scare me here. I know they're probably gonna scare me at this point. I know they're probably gonna do this thing at this point, and so it's a little bit easier to go. Okay, I don't have to play quite so conservatively. I can really kind of run out and do what I need to do.
Yeah, when it comes to like one simple pro tip would be anytime that like for Leon, you're going to upgrade his weapon, and that weapon has a magazine capacity upgrade. Try to have as little ammo in that gun remaining as possible.
Mm.
So, if you know that you're gonna save up to upgrade that the shotgun with a bigger magazine size, go ahead, use it, and then just like I had a boss fight, and I was like, all right, these are the weapons I'm gonna burn out, and I'll just make sure to switch over and not have it reloaded at a full magazine because when you go to upgrade the magazine, it'll give you free ammo. So why refill it right before you upgrade? Uh,
Yeah, for real.
Certain broken things like that, or like the liquors, they really teach you that in the RE2 remake, is like kind of how they work with that new gameplay. And so when it happens is in that game or in this one, playing as Grace in that final segment, there's a little upstairs little landing where there's two liquors moving around, and I was able to move, and as it's kind of squeezed my way into a corner, and it is facing me dead, dead at me, and then it kind of turns, and then I start to walk away, and then I get to the other one, and the other one's literally following me, like probably like a foot from my face. And I'm ready to shoot it, but I didn't have to, and I just was able to skirt around it without a problem.
Mm.
So when you realize like kind of how that works for the characters, that helps out a lot. Though, well, yeah, I don't know. I'm we've talked enough about this game. It is really fun. Uh, Pleasantly surprised. I do feel like this game must have gotten pushed back because of the constant October timeframe. I'm like that they're referring to in game. I'm like that would make sense if it was like real time or like just happened, but it's very weird playing it now in March and it being like October 9, and here's the date, but we're not giving a year, but we're just constantly giving you time updates
I
of like,
think early on they say that it's like it's 2026.
oh, does it say
I
2026? Okay,
think
I couldn't
because
remember.
I remember, I could be wrong, but I remember seeing like September something 2026, and I was like, wait, that's like in the future of this year, and I was like, huh. I was
Okay.
like, yeah. So that
I thought I saw 2026 as well, but then afterwards I started when I tried looking for it, it was like October 8th, October 9th, and it just kept on saying October 9th, and it just kept on giving the timestamps, and I was just like, "Okay, well, it doesn't say the year. Maybe I just imagined it. Maybe I just willed that." But if you saw it as
it
well,
is,
then, uh
it is weird that it's like set in October, but I mean, they gotta set it sometime, and it's really can't be set in the summer, and it's like, I mean, I guess they could have changed it to whatever they wanted, but at any time in development, even at the end. But but if they couldn't, then maybe they were like, well, let's set it in October because it's probably going to come out in the fall, so that'll make more sense. But it doesn't really matter anyway, and so whenever it slipped or whatever, then it just ended up not really nobody really cared about it. But it is kind of it does make you wonder if it was somehow set in October and or meant to come out in October and it slipped to, into February.
okay, just because we brought it up earlier, RE2, uh, Leon was supposed to be 21, Sherry would have been 12. So the current game, they're supposed to be 51 and roughly 41,
Okay.
according to the AI. So it's just, you know, when they first met, very much a age age difference.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
Same
That's
age difference, just way more socially acceptable at later in life. So
yeah, that's yeah, I'm not gonna touch any of that. So yeah.
but no, it's just, like I said, much, so it's just Rebecca Chambers missing since RE1. Uh, you had Sherry missing since like I think part of the post game, if you beat like one of the files you unlock in the Resident Evil 2, I remember talking about how she was picked up by like agents and like kind of like disappeared. So you're like, oh wow, I distinctly remember like that. There's and then you have a lot of the funny enough, a lot of female characters go missing in Resident Evil games. Claire, Shiva. It's like
Hmm.
so. Yeah, we'll. It's nice that they remembered to bring someone back, especially since they had Hunnigan, Agent Hunnigan, I think from six.
Hmm.
She was your handler, Leon's handler, specifically on the intercom. So they switched her out with Sherry. Yeah, but yeah,
Well, I
all
mean,
right then.
yeah.
So the ninth installment gets a 9 out of you. So all right.
Yeah, I think that's probably what I'm going to end up with it. After a few weeks or a few months, toward the end of the year, I might be like, well, maybe there's some other things that's not quite so. Like once the luster has sort of worn off of it, it might come down. But I think I'm pretty okay with a 9. I think Resident Evil has a bright future. I think game over game, especially since six. 6 was kind of a debacle. Um, but
Yeah, it's so gangbusters. It's the sad part.
well,
Yeah.
but at least, but like, it would have been very easy for the executives at Capcom to be like, but it sold so well, let's just keep going back. They clearly listened to what people were actually saying, and probably realized that like whatever it sold, it was the end of the road, for that. And then sort of returning to form for 7, and then kind of increasing that with 8. And I think they've really figured out a great formula here at 9. So I kind of hope that they hold with this trajectory of 7, 8, 9, into 10, and before they decide to make any major changes, because it's good. It's definitely going in the right direction, I would say. So yeah.
So, all right, speculation. What's ten's going to be name going to be? Because this one was Requiem, so REQ being a 9. The village was VILL. So for 8.
Yeah, I think with 10 they can do a lot of stuff because you can use the Roman numeral like they used for 8 to village. They can use, which I thought was pretty silly with the way it looked, but whatever. I get what they were going for, and the Q for 9 is like, yeah, okay. But with 10 they have an X, so they could use basically any word that has an X in it. So I'm thinking xylophone. Resident equals
All right.
xylophone.
I mean, it is but if they do the RE bit again, they'd be like Resident Evil Rex, be like Metal Gear, Metal Gear Rex. So that's the crossover. I'm Hideo Kojima going to be co-directing right here. Got it first. Uh, Solid Snake and Leon S. Kennedy and Chris Redfield broing it out. Who's the strongest muscle man?
Who's the alpha between Leon Kennedy
All right.
and Solid Snake? Yeah. That's I mean they really do have, like, I was thinking about this earlier. I was like, okay, 10. I was like, man, they really can do a crap load of stuff with it. Really, though, this is where they could mess up, and it would be like that they could mess up just kind of being spoiled for choice. They might pick a really dumb word like xylophone and mess it up. But I think they'll probably do something pretty cool.
All right. Now to what we've been watching. Nick, what have you been watching?
So I got a chance to watch Night of the Seven Kingdoms. So this is a spin-off show from Game of Thrones. And it's a prequel. It takes place before the events of Game of Thrones. And you could probably tell exactly where and when they are, more or less, if you followed Game of Thrones or you watched it recently or you remember a lot of that stuff. I didn't really remember. I was like, wait, I know that name and I remember that stuff because I did watch all of the seasons of the mainline Game of Thrones. Um, but as long as you paid attention at all in Game of Thrones, you'll be able to follow what's going on here. And even if you didn't, honestly, you could watch this show probably. You could probably watch this show completely blind and from what happened in Game of Thrones and still be able to follow like what's going on. But basically, the show is about a knight who he is a uh, newly minted knight, as it were, and he is pretty much broke, and they keep calling him a hedge knight, which I didn't really know this, but basically, a hedge knight is a little bit like a Ronin, kind of in some ways, according to the show at least. They're kind of a knight that will fight in a little bit of a mercenary too, but they'll kind of fight in anybody's army, and they're poor as knights go. They're pretty poor. They don't really have like any land or anything like that, so they kind of just have to. They're just kind of like wandering vagrants essentially. So this guy is basically that's like the main character is Sir Duncan, who goes by Dunk, I guess, in certain places, and it's about him kind of starting out as a knight. You'll kind of see why that is, and sort of what he has to go through to barely get a leg up in the world, I guess. But it's it's a really good it's a really good story because it doesn't try to do very much more than like what is like right in front of it. You hear Game of Thrones spinoff and you think, well, this is going to be like crazy with all kinds of characters and all kinds of action and battles and stuff like that, and just epic and stuff. And it's not. It's really down to earth. It's a very simple story, but it's very human in a way as well. So yeah, it was really good. Like I'd heard, like I was gonna ignore it completely because I had kind of been ignoring a lot of Game of Thrones stuff. I didn't really get into House of the Dragon. Thought about it a couple times, and I was like, yeah, I just can't. I just can't commit to this much. I just can't commit time, to this thing. Especially with the bad taste that Game of Thrones, left in my mouth. So I had heard from various people that I trust that no, this Night of the Seven Kingdoms is really good. And like no, seriously, like people were burning up their critic capital with me, saying like no, this is really good, and I was like okay, and then so I finally was like, all right, I've heard it's good. There's several episodes out, so I can kind of binge a little bit of it if I want to, and I did, and it is very good. So you've probably heard that by now, but I can confirm that it is actually quite a nice little story. Not very long, only 6 episodes, I believe, and it has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and it does give you a little bit of a good climax of an ending. I would say without something that fit the story. You do get to see some good fighting, I would say. So yeah, overall, very surprised when I did see a poster for this or some kind of ad for this, and I was like, well, that's gonna be complete poop. Not gonna watch that at all. Not falling for that again. And people started talking. I was like, okay, then yeah, it's good. It's supposed to get a season two. They're already talking about a season two for it apparently. So I will definitely be looking forward to that. I have to actually see a trailer. Once that actually is made, I'll have to judge it at that point. But I am excited for season two. Overall, very good.
All right, that's cool. I looked it up because I hadn't heard the term hedge knight before, and though it doesn't, the AI doesn't specifically say that it was, it didn't exist before the series. It does say that the more common term was bachelor knight or freelancer, so
Mm.
which makes sense. Uh,
Freelance. Yeah, there's a lot of jousting in this, which I've always thought was pretty cool. I mean, I liked A Knight's Tale for that, just as a crazy sport, you know. But they kind of gamify that. I don't know how accurate it is, but to Middle Ages, which this is a fantasy, so they don't have to be that accurate, but they do a pretty good job with turning that into like, oh, there's actually more to it than like you would think at first. And then yeah, so there's also levels of complexity. I think there's some things that happen which I'm not going to go into, obviously for spoilers' sake, but you know, toward certain part of the story, things happen, and then people that are supposed to be like the bad guy and people that are like that are the good guys or whatever are talking, and there's sort of like a like, well, you've gained and I've lost, even though it looks like I've gained because this thing actually and that like this happened, and so it's going to be bad for me in this way going forward. And I was like, that's pretty. It's maybe a little bit over explained, but but for the most part, it was like, okay, that's definitely some nuance, which is something that you don't get to see very often in TV shows. So I was proud of the show for doing that as well.
Okay. Well, that's I'm glad you found a series you like, and it helps wash the taste of the finale of Game of Thrones out of your mouth.
Yeah, I mean, I'm never gonna forget that or really forgive that, but this show at least is distant enough from everything else that's going on that it has a chance to be good as long as it stays small, um, relatively small. I think it can scale up, and there can be. They've hinted at some bigger things that are going to happen, but as long as it can stay relatively small and be about these characters and then finish after a reasonable number of seasons with a nice climax, then I will be happy. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's see here. I was able to catch up on a anime. Recent, it's been out for a bit, and uh, I hadn't gotten around to it, but it's called The Invisible Man and His Soon to Be Wife. Uh, it is a cute little romance story uh, about essentially an alternate timeline where uh, kind of the fantasy like monster creatures are everyday occurrence. So you have a lot of beast people. There's an owl person, there's a werewolf, or a wolf person, and apparently an invisible man. So he runs a detective agency, and he has a someone who like an accountant that works for him, and she is blind. So because she's blind, her other senses, inform her when he's around, and so I guess for the first time he gets to be seen, as it were.
Okay.
So he kind of falls for her because of that novelty, uh, because she, you know, sees him for who he is, I guess. Um, and
There's
you
irony
know,
there. Even though she's
yeah.
blind, she can really see.
Yeah, a friend of mine said, in the words, "It's a very fluffy, series," and it's like, yeah, it's very cute, it's very wholesome, it's but at the same time, there's progress being made in a relationship, and it moves at a decent pace, so it kind of is at least, mature enough for that, and it's not just like the entire series of will they, won't they kind of garbage. So, yeah, it in this, they even bring up some like story bits of like invisible people aren't actually allowed to be invisible in public. That he has a license because of his job in order to be, but he's like, yeah, it's also really dangerous if you're just invisible all the time because you can get in an accident, people can bump into you and stuff like that. Not also referring to crime and all the other bad things you can do by being invisible. So you have to be registered essentially. So yeah, Tony Stark was right. Mutants need to be registered. Or enhanced. I'm sorry, enhanced.
The safest hands are still our own. That's where
Uh,
I've always stood.
yeah. No, the series is cute. That's all I'm gonna really say about it. It's fun. It's wholesome. It's uh, it's worth a watch. I've watched. I ended up like we ended up binging a few episodes, like 4 of them or something like that. And I think there's like 10 out right now. So it's worth my time at least. All right, that's keeping that one short and simple because my anime website of choice has gone down and may or may not come back. So
So,
I will jump ship just like like a a rat on a vessel. We'll
okay.
find something else.
I was
Um,
gonna say, so is this podcast gonna have to no longer ever be about anime? Is this literally the last anime talk that we're ever gonna get to have on this
oh,
podcast?
there, where there's a will, there's a way. And
So you're gonna move to
it,
Japan and just so you can watch it
I've
on
already been to Japan. I'm done with that one. Okay.
you're gonna move back.
I mean, it depends on how bad America burns. But Japan's pretty good for the if I exchange the dollar now, I'd make a pretty good bank there. But yeah. Anyways, all right. Now I guess we talking about the news. You picked a few articles that you wanted to talk about. So what do we got?
Yeah, we can talk about some news. So, this is something that happened basically as we were podcasting last week. So we didn't get a chance to talk about it, but so I wanted to bring it up, even though it's about a week old. So Nintendo is suing the government for the tariffs kerfuffle that happened. It's basically I wasn't able to dig into it, completely. So there might be some part that I'm leaving out, but they are asking back the money for tariffs as many corporations are because those did not end up working out the way Trump thought they would. I think. But they're asking for that money back. They're asking for interest back, and they are also asking for legal fees to be paid as well. So they're asking for all of that. That they are uh, kind of citing a little bit, which so there's something that might give reason for them to ask for maybe possibly even more back than that, because they had to suspend their plans to start pre-orders on the Nintendo Switch 2 because that was right when the tariff stuff was popping off. So I don't think that's active yet, but they did have to change their plans, which essentially means that they lost money because they couldn't start pre-orders when they actually wanted to. Whether or not they're going to try to argue that in court, and whether or not that will actually be able to stand up in court if they do argue it, is another thing. But that's something that people kind of have talked about a little bit. I think it makes sense to actually look at that as an argument at the very least. But yeah, so yeah, the Nintendo's gonna have to get in line for these tariff funds to be returned. A lot of people and corporations are asking for that back, but it was definitely a kind of a big headline whenever it first came out.
Yeah, one of the top comments I'd seen was, finally a Nintendo lawsuit we can get behind.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, and makes sense because Nintendo is very apt to start lawsuits, as we all know, and yeah, it's probably going to this one probably going to work out for them, I imagine, at least to some degree.
All right. Well, what else you got for us?
Okay, so next up, maybe a little bit bigger news in terms of the right now, at least, is GDC is going on right now, and I got the name wrong here. It's Ronald. I forget his first name, um, but is it James Ronald? Um, gave a talk at GDC about Project Helix. So he is, I think, head of hardware development or something for Xbox. And basically, I've seen some. There's not like official footage, per se. There's not like a really like nice camera setup that they had, but I've seen a lot of like phone camera footage and stuff from this, so it was a little bit hard to follow because the audio wasn't always perfect. But basically, there's kind of three main things that I took away from this. And the first thing is that dev kits are coming out in 2020, are going to be provided to developers in 2027, which means that, basically, even if the Xbox, this new Xbox Helix, comes out in 2027, there's really not going to be any next gen games for it. Uh, it's not true next gen. There's going to be games for it, obviously, but they're really going to be kind of up-resed versions of what we were already going to get. Better running and all that stuff, and more shaders and shadows and different things like that. But there's not going to be very much in terms of new tech, which I was kind of like, well, okay. Um, that and then he talked a lot about how they want you to be able to play seamlessly across devices. So that sort of ties into their like Xbox Anywhere, or like this is an Xbox. Rather, your fridge is an Xbox, your phone is an Xbox, your the McDonald's order screen is an Xbox. It kind of ties into that. They really seem to want you to be able to pick up and play, go from your main Xbox to your phone to like some sort of other like ROG, ROG like Ally type device, which I think is a pretty cool idea. It makes sense to want to do that, but he just kind of harped on that, saying, that's where they want things to go. And then finally, he said that there's going to be some classic games that are going to be returning soon. So you can kind of look forward to that, I guess, if you're into playing classic games on newer hardware and stuff. So yeah, there's more to what he said as well. So go check that out if you want like all the details. But that was the main part of what I picked up.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to see it yet, so I know you talked about the classic games. I'm curious what they mean by classic, because if so long as it plays the current, Xbox One and Series, I can see it being for people who are kind of like Nintendo, who jumped on the Switch bandwagon, but skipped the Wii U, and they're like, "Oh yeah, there's actually a pretty good library here." It can kind of fill that void, whereas like, "Oh yeah, maybe people were on Xbox One, but maybe they dropped off on the series," and there's at least a few things here and there, some Forza, some Halo, some stuff like that. I think that might be a good filler to help, because if they're not getting dev kits out till next year, that means things really aren't going to be popping off until the at least a minimum of the year after. But you're looking at two, so 2029. You know,
Before we get a true next gen game, and it's probably not going to be, and it probably will be like a, I don't want to say any names of games. I'm thinking of some right now, but basically like a lesser known title, or not something we're particularly looking forward to.
or it'll be an iterative title that they have a team dedicated to work on, and then the moment they get that dev kit, they're just going to be able to kind of adapt as quickly as possible. So the first couple of games aren't going to be the most. They'll be cross-platform, so they're not going to be the most next-gen capable, but like the Call of Duties and stuff like that. I can see their house teams, are the ones they work with most, like Forza, because it's always you always want a racing game as your tech demo.
Mhm.
It photographs real nice. Good for the marketing. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see, because by that time you're gonna have a new graphics card out. We'll really see how the needle moves. Uh, unless if they're just gonna be coming out like Nintendo and be like, here is our lineup, and everyone else can get the dev kits later, or as the unit comes out. Only a few select teams maybe got it early, and
Well,
have at it,
I
run to
mean,
the races.
well, I wouldn't be very worried if Xbox made any games in house anymore, but they don't really make all that much anymore. So it's like Nintendo can sort of get away with that because it's like we have our are goblins at Nintendo headquarters that are chained to their desks. So they're, and we have their families. So they're not going to be leaking any dev kit stuff, but they're going to make stuff. And it's like, oh, it's just going to be Mario and Zelda and Donkey Kong. It's like, yeah, but that's all you get, for Nintendo anyway. Like they know, like they're a known quantity, and I'm kind of like okay with that. Sony puts out all kinds of games, so if they were to do this and not really give out dev kits, I'd be like, okay, that kind of, you know, that makes sense too. But Xbox hasn't really been making a lot of first party games, so to me it's more concerning than the other ones at the very least. I did want to touch on the classic games thing. I did have this Kotaku article pulled up because I was looking at it earlier, but basically it says that the company plans to re-release an unspecified number of older classic Xbox games as part of its game preservation program, and then they go into it, more than that, but that's basically the headline. So it's still a little bit vague as to when and how that is going to roll out. But just wanted to touch back on that. But yeah, it's we'll see how it goes. I just don't know if the late supplying of the dev kits brings into question how much you're going to really need this new Xbox when it comes out.
Yep. All right. Well, it's still really far off, and it's a waiting game. It is kind of exciting that they're talking a little bit about it, but honestly, once again, don't hold your breath. So, all right, what else you got for us?
Okay, so a couple more things here. So Valve has kind of responded about the New York Attorney General, lawsuit, saying that they've been. So Valve is saying that they have been trying to stop gambling. So the lawsuit, if you're kind of new to this, is the state of New York is alleging that Valve is basically facilitating gambling and doing things that are essentially illegal because of their skins, because of their selling of boxes and skins and things like that, and and Valve is basically just saying, no, we've been trying to actually stop this stuff. Here's where we have shut down this site and stopped these people from doing stuff and putting out cease and desist over here as well. And so yeah, that's just sort of a little bit more of the advancement there. It's going to be pretty hard for New York to be able to prove this. I think, as long as there is a clear line, between Valve and anybody that sells the skins, I feel like it's going to be pretty tough, because as long as like people can take the skin or the box or whatever from Steam and off of Steam, then they can pretty much do whatever they want with it. There's really there's no way to control that. It just depends on but then again, if New York, the judges in New York decide, no, what you're doing is facilitating gambling, that'd be a pretty big deal, I think. So we'll see how it goes, but Valve is just saying, no, we are not doing that. And I didn't know they were actively shutting things down, but it does seem like they are actively kind of trying to fight it at least a little bit.
Well, there has been some major issues with the CS:GO community and some gambling, and so of course there's by nature there's fallout from the previous incidences, and so you're like, yeah, we did that, we helped close that because there was an issue. But if there wasn't an issue, would they have how much would they have done? Who knows? But all right,
Yeah.
we'll see how this plays out. I'm sure it'll be it'll probably be swept under the rug. They'll probably handle that out of court. We'll
Yeah,
see.
it'll probably turn into a big old nothing burger. But I think there's some lawsuits in Europe that they did not do so well in, and so not that New York is exactly like Europe or anything, but or even the precedent really carries, but it's something there. There's definitely something there, and they can maybe use similar arguments. Okay,
All right.
so a Resident Evil fan named Gabe Follower if that's his real name. He bought a domain that appears on a computer screen in the game because it's called newdawn-capcom.com, and he's paid $15 and bought this domain because nobody had actually bought it yet, but it appears on a computer screen in Resident Evil 9, and people have been talking about, like, what does it mean? Is it some kind of clue for the future? And he was like, I wonder if anybody owns this, and he went and bought it. And so there's not really much to that. It's just sort of a funny little thing. He says that he'd be interested in giving it back if Capcom, like reaches out. I imagine that he would be looking for money to exchange some hands. At least that's what I would be looking for. But yeah, that kind of remains to be seen. That's just me completely speculating, complete total guess. But yeah, so that was sort of a little funny story that I saw that I'd bring up.
That's funny. Yeah, it's whenever you give, you have a web address, QR code, phone number. Hollywood learned a long time ago. You got to make it fake or you got to spin it to promote. And if you give that opening to a gamer, or like they're going to most definitely take advantage of that when they can. I remember the most infamous one growing up was Tim Allen's The Santa Claus, like the original cut of that movie. At one point, he's yelling over the phone or something like that, and he says the phone number 1-800-SPANK-ME, I think it is.
Oh no.
And yeah, so a bunch of kids are calling expecting Santa Claus, and they get like an adult phone operator. And parents are then having these wild bills on their phone.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, 800 number. Yeah. I don't know. That's, yeah, that's, or whatever number it actually was. That could become problematic, especially back then, because that was like the 90s, right? So long distance was still a thing.
yeah, and then I mean, most recently it was Wicked and Mattel, for the Wicked Barbie dolls or whatever, or the Wicked dolls, on the back had like wicked.com or something like that. And it's supposed to be like Wicked movie because Wicked itself is an adult site. And so quickly, I remember the moment I heard that go off, I'm like, you know what? I'm too lazy, but I should probably go out there and try to buy the boxes with that on because those are going to be collector's items in the future for that fan base. But I'm like, no, that's too much effort. But
Yeah.
it's and people did. People went out and hunted those down. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah. You
so
could see that. Not,
careful what you post.
yeah. You could see that going very not well with a word like wicked. Yikes. Yeah. That's funny. So, yeah, so I just thought that was a little cute little story I thought I'd bring up. And then so next up, I don't usually go to Eurogamer, but I just decided to today. I found a story on there that I thought was actually pretty interesting. So basically, one of the writers for Eurogamer was talking to the director of the European games ratings program, the guy that decides that stuff. So the name of that, so in it's been so long since I actually looked at that in the United States, but in Europe it's called PEGI, PEGI. So you'll often see like a European trailer for a game and it'll go PEGI 16. So that's where that is coming from. But basically this reporter decided to ask the director of the PEGI program if he is going to allow his 15-year-old son to play Grand Theft Auto 6 when it comes out. And the PEGI director, he said, first of all, he surprised me. He said that he knew that somebody was going to ask that question. But I thought it was a good question overall, and he hemmed and hawed a little bit. But he basically said that he has not been allowing his 15-year-old to play games that they are, quote, not old enough to play. But he did say that it's not a hard and fast rule, that it's a guide. It's a shorthand for the parents, so that, like, he was like, if you think that if you're a parent with a 14-year-old and they want to play a Peggy 16 or Peggy 18 game, and you think that they are ready for that, then you can look at the rating and go, "Yeah, I think this is fine. I think that they're ready for this," and you can make that choice. It's about parents being able to make informed uh, decisions about the content that their children consume. Um, but he and so like after he kind of talked about that, I was like, okay, that's at least a good like nuanced take. He did basically say that that his son has not been able to play Hades 2. I don't even know what Hades 2 is rated. So I guess it's rated something over there, like 16 or whatever. But that his son hasn't been able to play Hades 2 yet, um, apparently because, he's not allowed him to. And so he's like, so he's probably not going to be able to play Grand Theft Auto, but we'll see how it goes, and I might make a different decision, or the decision might be made after it comes out, and just kind of like left it there.
Hades 2 has a Peggy 12 rating.
That's weird. Then, yeah, I don't understand. Because he's been able to play Hades 1. So what's Hades 1 Peggy rating? Could you look that up quick?
All right, yeah, because I mean, if his kid is 15, that Peggy 1 also has a Peggy 12 rating.
Hades 1 has
So
a
at
Peggy
least according
12
to
rating.
AI,
Okay.
yeah. So Hades 1 has a
Well, he
Peggy
said
12
his
rating.
son has been able to play Hades 1, but not Hades 2. So it's a little bit of a confusing article. I didn't really scour it. I read through it. Um, so maybe that's just my own.
It could be themes, it could be characters. Like I said, some of the things. So they could get like a clipboard of uh things that topics that they would get dinged on. Um, as a former GameStop employee in a previous life, we would, you know, when kids would bring up something in front of their parents, and we figured this parent might cause us grief later,
Mhm.
we would bring that up. Like just FYI, Halo is rated for mature because it's like they're like, oh really? I'm like, yeah, it has blood, violence, some language, and they're like, oh really? Like the language is almost minimum. The blood is just some minor splats.
It's mostly
It's like
alien
we would
blood.
and then it's like we let them know. I'm like, it's really not that bad. But then or so the kid would try to sneak in like, a GTA, and we're like, child, you are like maybe middle school at best. And the parent just doesn't know, just not paying attention because they just not. I'm like, just letting you know this is rated M for mature. They're like, oh, really? Why? And you flip it over in the back and you read that laundry list of like, sexual violence, suggestive themes, nudity, drug use, alcohol. And they're just looking at you as you're reading this, like, and you're like, and then the kid just looks at you like, "You dirty person! You just complete like I can't believe you just blocked me." And I'm like, "Hey, man, I don't want your parent coming back here later and just yelling at us for letting you get or I forget certain games. I'd be like, "Yeah, it has language." And they're like, "Oh, really? Like, is it really bad?" I'm like, I don't know. Do they go to public school? No, they go to private school. Oh, they most definitely heard these languages. Yeah. Um, and then the parent would usually laugh it off and be like, okay, yeah, sure, let the kid pick it up. But like, just to let you know, that's what this is here for. Here's what it says, and don't come back at me later.
Yeah,
So
there's yeah, like for Halo, you kind of play that and you're like, yeah, I guess you have to rate this M, but it's a pretty soft M. Whereas Grand Theft Auto is about as hard an M as there can be before it goes into A. And in fact, what is it? The hot coffee mod or whatever. Um, that was a big scandal. I remember when that happened for like San Andreas, where it did cross over into the A rating. At least those, I think they modded it out or something like that. But like, there's like older.
So what happened? Yeah, I was there for that. So it became an AO game because there was a locked house and there was content still in it, technically, where there was a hot coffee. She invites him over for hot coffee. There's a sex scene, and that would have pushed it over. So what they did is they just made the mission inaccessible. More or less, closed the front door. You can't access it unless you use like a cheat engine and you are able to clip into it, and then you'd be able to access said content. So it wasn't, you weren't able to get to it, and then yeah, we had a lot of questions about that. My parents like, isn't it? I'm like, and then you're like, you can't do it normally. It is there behind. You'd have to break the game, to get to it. And like, oh, okay, so
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
So that was that was a big deal at the time. I remember that was popping off pretty big into like the mainstream because even back then, games were not as mainstream. I mean, they were still definitely known and stuff like that, but it's a little bit different world now compared to then, even at that time. Um,
yep.
Okay, so then just the last thing here that I wanted to mention is that Amazon Prime 4K is going behind even higher paywall. If you have Prime to get all your packages and stuff, you can't get um, Prime Video without paying a little bit more. I think it's going from $3 up to $5. Um, and I feel like I still have to watch. I guess they're not like outside ads; they're like Amazon ads or whatever. But I feel like I thought I was already paying for this. I thought the $3 tier got you like limited ads or something like that. But maybe it was. I think what pushed me over was Fallout. Like I went ahead and with Fallout Season 2, I was watching ads for that, and I was like, I don't want to deal with this. So I was like, it's only $3. Heck, I'll do it. But it's going up to 5. So $2 difference, not that big of a deal. But when you're already like paying for Prime, it is sort of like it's just it becomes kind of a lot. Which Prime I think is worth it, but I just wanted to bring that up because it's a little bit it's another insult to our wallets here in the year of our Lord 2026.
Yeah, well, don't worry. I'm betting within the next year you're gonna hear about tariffs, causing it to Prime itself to go up even higher. So the base Prime is going to go up while you're still paying extra for the video. So good that they got the double dip you there.
Yeah, so it's funny because like for all the money, for all the things that got price hiked because of tariffs, and then the companies get their money back from the government. Do we get our money back from the companies for the things that they price hiked?
You get to have the self-satisfaction of knowing you're a loyal customer.
Yes. Okay. Well, if in that case, okay, I'm okay with it then, I guess.
All right. Well, guys, if you made it this far, we appreciate it. This has been Dead Pixel, episode 168. Nick, what are some words of wisdom you have for the people out there?
You should look at what you're typing while you type it. Usually. Now, there's some people with special powers, they don't need to do that, but in general, when you start to type, you should look at what you're typing.
Yep. Always double check your stuff, just in case.
Always proofread.
All right, guys. Well, until next time, this is ADP. Y'all take it easy.
Bye.